Welcome to Discussions with Baldev Mutta. We've been talking about a series of topics on parenting. We started understanding power and guidance, differences in parenting, and we are going to continue that discussion. And as we mentioned last time, this topic and this particular segment is going to be on how much control is too much. And let's start our discussion. Baldevji, welcome.
Thank you, Hafiz. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk about parenting in the South Asian community. And this topic is important because I think this is where initially the parents go wrong, and then subsequently I think their relationship gets affected by it. So I think that's why it is important for us to have a discussion on this.
And you're absolutely right, because in our work we continue hearing where parents are continuously making mistakes and they're having difficulty communicating, supporting, guiding their children because of the gap that increases as the years go by, and when there are problems. So parents are not able to realize that problems have started because there is a communication gap.
Yeah.
In the last session, we talked about effects of control on child and their development. We talked about low self-esteem, how that increases their child's anxiety, their problem-solving skills has an impact, and they also become rebellious and resistant because now there is such a communication gap, right?
Yeah.
That they can no longer talk to each other or spend quality time, right? So we're going to talk about how much control is too much. So let's start with that. Okay. What do you think is too much
control? I think the first thing that that happens is, and how does the child react to it, is their ability of the child to express himself or herself. That self-expression is very important. So if the parents are exercising too much control, this is the self-expression of a child gets affected. The child kind of shuts down and doesn't react. And we have seen that often parents say, "Sada bacha ta gal hi nahi karta." Our child doesn't talk to us, and he's very quiet. He's in his room, and he constantly, when we come to ask him if he's sitting in the basement, he goes up, and if we go up, he goes down, and he never sits with us. And this is precisely because the self-expression of a child in the initial stages, when the child was between 5 and 12, the child was never allowed to express. So now they have trained their mind to just be quiet. And then if parents want to talk, they have nothing to say.
Right, because they've learned that anything that they say is going to be criticized, or that they're going to be told that they're not right, or that they're not listening to them.
Exactly.
So it becomes a learned behavior, and they start implementing that to avoid any kind of conversation or communication with their parent.
Yeah.
Right? So what happens when kids start doing that? What happens to the choices that they're making? What happens to the friendships that they're having?
Yeah. So one of the things what happens is that fear takes over. They become afraid. They are unable to choose what they want to do. So they are basically reacting to certain behaviors which the parents are disapproving, and then the parents are using whatever mechanisms they know is either intimidating the child or demeaning the child or putting down the child. Tenu akal nahi ki, for example, tu kade listen ta karda hi nahi na tu.
Right. Yeah.
So once the child is being told constantly that the child is no good, then of course the child feels that I am suffocating. And once the child feels suffocated, I think that's when the danger happens, is that the alienation between parents and children start to happen. So
Right.
now they are in the same room, but they are not in the same room. Like mentally they are not there.
Physically
but
they're
physically
sitting,
they are
yeah,
there.
mentally, and it's devastating to the child when they hear from their own parent
Yes.
that you're no good or that you're not listening, because their own parent is supposed to be their most loving person that they go to,
Yeah.
that they want to feel safe with and express themselves.
Yeah.
So that's, and when they turn around and they start criticizing their own child, the child's self-esteem also goes down, and they cannot sort of like exercise their own, as you mentioned, self-expression.
Yeah.
Right. So when there is a distance created between children and parents, their communication goes down. They're not talking. What are the behaviors that child starts displaying? Because they need attention,
Yeah.
right? They need parents' attention. They need their love. Where are they going to start getting this attention from if they don't get it from the parent?
Yeah. So for example, if we want the child to be confident,
Mm-hmm.
if we want the child to make certain decisions, and so the child is not making decisions, is not confident, why does that happen? Is because we are not allowing the children to take risks.
Right.
So if the child is not taking a risk, or cannot take a risk, or is not willing to take a risk, the child will never be confident.
Mm-hmm.
If the child is not confident, then of course we cannot expect the child to graduate from a university, go look for a job. And the complaint of parents is, okay, we tell this person, develop a resume, send out the resume, go talk to different uncles, but this guy doesn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Not realizing that it could be that the child is not confident enough in his or her abilities to do this. So, because we have never allowed them to take risks, we didn't say, why don't you go out? Why don't you talk to people? Why don't you be yourself? And because we restricted that mobility or that ability to go and be in difficult situations, get out of those difficult situations and build your own confidence and your courage, now the child becomes demotivated.
But isn't it true that even when we say that go talk to somebody, right? For example, we often want kids to go and talk to family, friends, and relatives. And even then we tell them how to, right? You have to respect that person.
Yeah.
You have to say Sat Sri Akal. You have to do this. You have to. So even that is not their own way of connecting with that person. So if they have a gut feeling about somebody not being a good person,
Yes.
right? Now the parent have destroyed even that.
That's right.
Right? So they're not going to start feeling confident about anything when we want the child to go and apply for jobs.
Right.
I have had parents where, the child is 20, 21, 22 years old. They are here as permanent resident, and the parent is doing the application for their peer renewal.
Right.
And I asked them, why isn't your child connecting with me?
Yes.
They're old enough
Yes.
to do this on their own.
Right.
Please have them call me.
Yes.
Right? And I've seen some of the kids flourish being able to make that decision and take that on.
Exactly.
Right? So in terms of, you said taking risks, if the child is not even allowed to make small mistakes,
Yes.
they will not take big risk.
I think the other thing besides the risk taking is also, as parents, do we even value the thoughts, the opinions, the values of our children? I think that we don't. I think that we think that because our child is born in my family, the child should espouse my values. It just doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. I can be devoutly religious, but my child can say, I don't believe in God. Would we be able to accept it? No, we won't. No. We won't accept that, because we will say, no, this is unacceptable. You have to say yes. So the child has no choice of any kind of free opinion. Mm-hmm. So I think that's where we are exercising our control over the child by saying all of these things. So I think what happens is that the creativity, mm-hmm. the ingenuity of the child is destroyed by making sure that the child only thinks the way we want them to think and doesn't allow any kind of creativity or individuality in it.
And yet the irony is, the more parents want to do that, the more child thinks differently.
Exactly.
And thinks opposite. And they're thinking, I do not want to be like my parents at all.
At all, yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So they're going complete opposite. So what is it that parents can do? What can they do to develop self-determination in children, and when should they start?
I think it should start at a very young age, when they are 3-4 years old. A 3-year-old can actually sit down and eat by himself or herself. A 3-year-old can change his or her clothes. Mm-hmm. A 3-year-old can wash their body. A 3-year-old knows how to take clothes out of the washing machine if you stand beside the 3-year-old. Mm-hmm. A 3-year-old can do very many things. 3-year-olds are very smart. Mm-hmm. The more you will be able to give them responsibilities, the better their brain development will be.
Right.
Because if you at age 2 do not purchase 2 chairs and a small table, with very small chairs and a very small table, the child will never learn to sit down properly. Mm-hmm. And if you see in kindergarten, South Asian kids are the ones that are not trained at home to sit on a chair and a table. They are always either sitting on a dining table, or they are sitting on the floor in the living room on a rug, or they are sitting on a sofa. So all of a sudden they go into the kindergarten class and they have a table and a chair.
Right.
We don't ask them to sit at home on a table and a chair and read a book. We don't do that. So the whole responsibility of teaching a child at a very young age, we don't spend too much time training them. Mm-hmm. And I think the responsibility that we assign to small children about dressing themselves appropriately, going out, if it's snowing, putting on appropriate clothes, if it's raining, putting on appropriate clothes, if it's a summer, then putting on appropriate clothes, putting on sunscreen, all those things can be trained at the age of 3.
Can I share an example? My son, who was 2 years old, he already knew that I could speak English, so he would speak to me in English, and he would speak to his grandma in Punjabi.
Right.
So even a 2-year-old and even younger children have that ability to feel, to be able to express.
Right.
And you're talking about training at least starting at 3. Right? In our culture, it doesn't start, almost doesn't start at any point, right? It's basically because parents think their job is to provide, to take care of them.
Exactly.
But in taking care of them, they're not realizing that they're also not teaching them. There is a saying here, teach your child how to fish rather than giving them the fish.
That's correct.
And we're forgetting that if we continue providing the fish to the child, they're never going to know what are the tools that are required.
Yeah. So what does self-determination mean? Punjabi ch khud mukhtiyari.
Right.
So self-determination is the ability to make decisions.
Right.
I am a capable person. I can make a decision that I am going to shut down the TV and read a book. That is called self-determination. That's called responsibility. That's called decision making. Now, why do our children not read books? Because we have never given them the ability to read books. We don't give them this.
Right.
In fact, I have had several parents who say, my daughter reads too many books.
Yes.
So I said, what's wrong with it? Isn't that a good thing that the daughter reads too many books, that she is watching less TV and is less on the phone? Why are you concerned about it?
Yes, that's very true. That's very true. I've heard that many times.
So the question is that we are not allowing our children to become involved in self-determination of themselves. I am a good person. I will make responsible choices. What does a responsible choice mean? Or a responsible kind of communication means? It means I will speak at the right time.
Right.
I will choose the right words. I will choose the right tone of voice, and I will choose all of this so that the right outcome happens. Now, this can be taught to a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old. If the child is kind of using inappropriate words, which sometimes they learn in school because older kids are there, and sometimes those older kids use bad words, and so the child doesn't know what a bad word is, so comes home and says. So I think those are important things that we take that opportunity to talk to them about self-determination.
What are the 4 important points that you would suggest that parents need to work on in order for the child to have and develop self-determination?
Okay, so we talked about decision making. Decision making means that the child should be comfortable in making a decision, and by making a decision means, am I going to watch TV or am I going to do my homework? Am I going to watch TV or am I going to eat? My mom said that I should be brushing my teeth. Is it time to brush my teeth? That's a decision. We don't teach our children. We just keep on repeating them. Get up, you will be late, go brush your teeth. The child is not even allowed to make a decision. We are just constantly bombarding them with directions, with reminders. Tenu kya siga, tu uth kar, tu uthya hi nahi. Right? So that means that their decision making becomes compromised. And the more you give reminders, the more detrimental it is for their decision making. That's number 1. Second one is that the children cannot problem solve. So for example, if there are 2 children in the house, one is old, one is older than the other one and younger one, and now they both fighting. It's called siblings fighting with each other. Do you every time go and sort out their problem? Can't we sit down with them and say, okay guys, look, you may have difficulty. Let's sit down and figure out how we're going to solve a problem. What is the best way to solve a problem so that neither gets hurt? So we don't teach them. We just go there and we say, Hanji, ki hoya? He pushed me. He took my pencil. Okay, why are you taking his pencil? You have your own. Where is your pencil? So we are interfering in their ability to learn how to problem solve.
Right. And rather questioning now, and then in a way might even be giving wrong messages to the child.
Yeah. Right? And then we can look at, and this is where we are afraid. The South Asian culture is very afraid. How much independence are you going to give to your child? Can the child independently decide, I'm going to read a book? Can the child independently decide, I'm going to do coloring? Can the child independently decide that I am going to today sit down and not do any homework and just watch TV? Am I going to allow the child to make these independent decisions? How much independence does a child have? Can the child not say, Mom, I am not hungry today, I will not eat breakfast. Can you please put an extra sandwich in my bag and I will eat it at school? We don't do that. और नहीं थोड़ा जिहा खा ला, तू दूध पी ला, तू कुकी खा ला, तू फिर तेरे भुख लगूगी, फिर तेरे तो पढ़ नहीं होना, फिर तू पीछे रह जाएगा. So all of these things make a difference because we are not allowing them to make a decision. It's important for us to let them face the consequences of not eating. So for example, if a child doesn't eat in the evening, just say, look, are you sure you don't want to eat? And the child is 5 years old and says, no, I don't want to eat. Okay, you pick up the food, put it in the fridge, and that's it. So now the child will realize at night time, oh my God, I should have eaten.
Yes.
I'm hungry. That is a learning experience for the child because the child will learn like this. It's called natural consequences. So we don't allow that. So we will keep on talking to the child. थोड़ा जिहा खा ला, नहीं हुंदा, रात नूं खाईदा हुंदा, फिर तैनूं भुख लगूगी, फिर तू सानूं bother करेगा. Like we keep on repeating like this, and as a result, what happens? We take their freedom away and their independence away. Right? So those are some of the things that are important.
And the learning that they were going to have.
Yeah.
As a result of that experience.
Exactly.
Right? And being able to make a decision, therefore, on the next day, and being able to listen.
Exactly.
Right? So if the parent lets the child suffer the consequences,
yes.
Now next day they will know, if I don't eat now, I'm not going to get the food.
Exactly.
Right? So what is the last point that you would say in this?
So one is emotional support. That means we are not in touch with the child's feelings. That's one.
Right.
So what does it mean by not allowing the child to be in touch with the feelings? For example, for boys, we culturally say, "Kyun kudiyan wangu rona? Why are you crying like a girl? You're not supposed to cry. Be a man. Suck up." Okay? So that means we are not getting the boys to be in touch with their feelings. And what are we saying to the girls? Oh no, you are soft, you can't pick up anything, you don't help your dad, your job is to play with dolls, and even if the girl may be really good with hands and she wants to be an engineer, we still want to channel them in some other direction. Right? So we are not in touch with the feelings. So as a result, the child never learns whether his or her feelings are right or wrong. So feelings can be anything. Today I can be sad. So allow them to express that I am sad today. Okay? Because we are as adults also sad someday. Appa bhi kai vari, when we get up in the morning, we don't feel like eating breakfast. And then we have the ability to make a decision, okay, we're not going to eat anything. But why can't a child say that same thing? Why can't a child? So we feel sometimes like, oh God, I don't want to go to work today. I'm just so tired. So the child does the same thing. Dad, Mom, I'm so tired. I don't want to go to school. Why can't the child say so we can process the feelings that the child has? But we don't allow that.
Right. But it's also important, Uncle, that they understand how to name the feelings. Right? Because we don't name necessarily all the feelings.
No, we don't.
Right? We don't even know all the feelings that we go through and we experience. So we cannot, if we don't name our own feelings, we don't know how to help the child name the feelings that they're experiencing.
Yes. So if we don't allow them, so what happens if we don't allow them feelings? What happens if we don't allow them? Well, one of the things that will happen is that they will not know the difference between anger and frustration.
Right.
Anger, before one becomes angry, the initial emotions are frustration. Apan khejandi ya fir gussa aanda. But if we are not in tune with usually what the child will say, I am angry. But what happened before you became angry? We have to teach them that you are frustrated because things are not going your way.
Right.
Right? So the child asks mom, can I have an ice cream? And mom says, no, you can't have an ice cream. Now the child is not angry. The child gets frustrated. Now the child says to mom, no, give me little bit. I want little bit. I haven't eaten it for 2 weeks. Now the child is processing that frustration and channeling it into anger. And now the child will be angry. Now if we don't process the anger part by saying, I know you are angry. I want you to take deep breath. I want you to count to 10. Say 10, 9, 8, 7 and all the way up to 1, 0 so that you can calm yourself down. The child is going to throw some things at you.
Right.
That means now the child is unable to control the anger. First they were unable to control frustration. Then they were unable to control anger. And now they are unable to control anger and they threw things at you.
So in this whole process, right, they have self-determined in the wrong way.
That's correct.
Right?
Yes.
So instead of us being able to help them, guide them, right, provide the guidance to allow their feelings to process at the right time, or even name it, that this is a feeling that you are experiencing. We are not able to help them process through it because we don't know ourselves.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
So we haven't talked about the guidance yet. And we're almost running out of time.
Okay.
I think we can do another segment, as we said. We'll do another series as to what guidance could look like and what it is.
Yes.
But before we go, what would you like to say?
So I think one of the things that I want to kind of tell them is, do you want your child to be confident human being? Do you want your child to be able to make a decision? Do you want your child when they complete grade 12 to go to university or to college or select a professional career for them? They could be electrician, they could be a car mechanic, they could be truck mechanic, they can run a business, they can be anything they want to do. But are you willing to allow them the ability to decide for themselves what they want? And I think many parents in our community are unable to give that freedom for the children to make that decision. So my recommendation is, please think it over, have a discussion with each other, like mom and dad can both sit down, have a discussion and give the opportunity to your children. Teach them some basic skills to manage their emotions so that they are able to decide for themselves what is good for them.
Thank you so much, Uncle, for your time, and I hope that the viewers will take away some lessons for themselves. We will continue to have these segments on an ongoing basis and provide more information. If you would like to learn some of these parenting skills yourself, please contact Baldev Mutta at 416-995-3920. And you can also visit the website at baldevmutta.com. And we will come back with another topic and another session with you on how to guide your children. And until then, we will see you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.